Hi, this is Mike making my video. Today's 5/10/2025 and it's 9:10 p.m. So yeah, I'm making this video to add to my collection. Um, yeah, I nearly got everything done. Uh, I've got just several things to do, maybe half a dozen at the most, but uh, most generally I've accomplished everything. Yeah, it seems like every day is filled with some little adventure or another. Um, yeah, I found a watch that I found the charger for it, and I was able to fix that. And then I had my little Apple Watch copy that I bought for $25, and it's pretty much the same as an Ultra 10 or whatever Apple Watch, but it's more or less a Chinese version. It's missing a few features, but really, ultimately, it's the same thing. So that, and I got my little camera going, and uh, I got my night vision goggles or binoculars. I've wanted a pair of these for a very long time, and I finally got them. And you know, and of course I got my gaming computer that I wanted, and several other ones. But I got my Kirby vacuum cleaners and stuff like that, and then I got my jackets and glasses, and I've been accomplishing things, So it's not like I'm sedentary and I'm not doing anything. I'm actually doing things. So anyway, I found that life is a series of accomplishments. It's like you conquer one thing after another, and then it gets to the point where you're not struggling as much as you were, and you find out things are easier. Some people are opposed to that. They think that the law of least effort. They don't put any effort into anything, and that's contrary to what the truth is. For example, those binoculars, I really wanted them. I had to drive for 5 hours round trip, but I barely had enough gas. I mean, the gas light almost came on when I pulled in the driveway. So when I got back, and of course, not to mention the time that I invested. So you ask yourself, how much are you willing to suffer to get something? And it's incumbent upon you to realize that you have to dedicate so much of your time, effort, and money towards something to receive it. And that's really essentially what manifestation is all about. You don't cross your arms and lay in bed and expecting everything to work out. Things do, but that they work out to, basically the default level. And you want to rise above that default level. The default level is kind of like, when you lose by default. So it's kind of like, the universe will take care of everything, answer things for you. But the thing is you could do so much better than that if you put forth effort. So, you do have to put some effort into things if you want to get them. And, some people have incredible wealth. And, the reason being is they've dedicated a lot of their time, effort, and money into making more money and doing the things that they truly wanted to do. But I did that as well. I dedicated a lot of my effort into magical abilities, and that's really something I was fascinated with when I was a little kid. Was magic, and then I had a little magic book and stuff like that. I never could really figure it out, but I decided, that I wanted to, forego that and basically try to become a magician. So anyway, I did that, and then of course the lover, uh, the merchant of the earth, the man of the earth. I had a car lot, and I had a lot of small stuff for pawn shops. I was running an online pawn shop and car lot. And then again, the warrior, almost killed myself doing that. So I decided to drop out of that whole deal. And, you know, the philosopher, the great, the wise teacher, you know, I do that from time to time. I offer people advice and stuff. I try to help them on their journey. But then, you know, like the fool, I was doing that for many years. And even at being the fool, you know, I still accomplished major things. And, you know, I don't know what else. Oh, the Creator God, Destroyer God. I did those two things. And I think that pretty much sums it up. And then, of course, the Hermit's the final frontier. But that probably won't happen until I'm about 70. Somewhere in there. But I'm kind of doing that now. I spend a lot of time alone. And, you know, because of that, you know, I don't need, you know, I don't need validation from people. And it's nice to hear it every once in a while, but I don't have to have it. And as far as like being with women, you know, I don't have to be with women. Don't get me wrong, I wouldn't mind it, but I don't think I'm just in the position to be in a relationship. My libido is really slow, and, you know, it wouldn't be fair to the woman, you know, if I was trying to keep her and stuff like that. You know, it's jumping through all these hoops to satisfy her, and it's just like, fuck that. I just soon stay by myself. And, you know, I'd almost rather have like this computer than a woman, you know. So anyway, you know, I was talking to a very influential man online. You know, I'm not going to say any names, but he's got all the money you could imagine in the world, and he's a friend of mine. And we compare notes, you know, about how his life is going and how my life is going. He's a friend of mine, and, you know, he's got his life, and he's kind of up to his eyeballs and responsibilities. And, you know, like I say, you know, I told him, you know, I don't have many, and I'm living a peaceful life and tranquility. That's what I have. And, you know, that's priceless. I got time and I got money. It's sufficient. You know, it's a little bit above sufficient, but it's not necessarily everything, you know, that I do want, but it's still enough. And that's how it is, you know. I'm sufficient unto myself as far as what types of things I receive. And, you know, so anyway, I had all the education I wanted, all the girlfriends I wanted. You know, I had almost all the property I've ever wanted, and then, you know, you know, all the experiences, all the miraculous experiences. So I actually chose magic, and that was actually one of the things that really blew my mind. And then I just discovered that everything's pretty much an illusion. It's vanity, vanity, everything is vanity. It's just chasing after the wind. It's meaningless. So absurdity, you know, it's kind of like, you think of the absurdity in things, you know, the pork barrel projects and the military blunders, and, you know, they build all this stuff that's priceless, and they destroy it, and in war and stuff like that, it just makes no sense. And, you know, I see people suffering all the time online, and, you know, my heart goes out to them, but it's just like I can't really do much about it. And so anyhow, that's really what's going on there. And, you know, but I got my little room, you know, I got my VR goggles, and I could be with any woman I want, you know. I just put them on, and I see the most beautiful woman in the world, and I can go to all kinds of mausoleums and stuff like that, all kinds of exhibits, and it's all preserved, you know, and I can see that stuff. And then, of course, you know, even like Facebook Messenger, I can talk to anybody if I really want to reach out to them. And yeah, I got my little oven, I got my microwave, I got my little refrigerator, and my little hot plate, and my little George Foreman grill, and my coffee pot and stuff like that. And I got storage for my food, and of course storage for my clothes and stuff like that. So I do have a life, and I don't have a lot of room, but I know like people in China, they live in these coffin houses or these little tiny rooms, that are half the size of this. I was living in prison for a while, and the rooms are ridiculously small, and I adapted to that, so this is heaven compared to that. And I got a truck, and then I got another truck, but eventually I'll get the other truck fixed, and then my truck. So anyway, there's that, and then once those two things are fixed, I'll probably just keep driving them until the shit hits the fan, and then probably replace one of them. I'm not sure. So anyway, that's how that works, and then I got a storage unit and a camper. So I'm doing pretty good for how things are. And it's just really what it is you be content with what you got, and you'll be given more. If you got something in your hand, you'll be given more. It's like you have something. It takes something to make something. If you have absolutely nothing, I mean, even then you'll get something as well. But you just have to realize, sometimes you might not have much. And I've came from rock bottom, and I journal and stuff like that. If I don't have anything, a pen and paper, and I just do what I got to do. And it's like I take comfort, in smaller things. And being content is a low level of happiness. It's a modicum of success. And how do you define success? How do you define wealth? Some people might have put all their money in their body. I've done that. And of course, your mind. I've done that. And then of course, you take your possessions and you multiply them. You trade one thing for another, a greater value, and then you just keep flipping things until eventually you get to the point where you get to what you want, where you want to be. And sometimes you really don't have to travel that far to find the kingdom of heaven. It's more or less right in front of your face, but mankind fails to see it. It's here, but your mind has to be open enough to see it. And once you see it, then you'll realize that it was with you all along. It's all pretty much on the inside of your mind, and it's an outward projection of it. The outside world is a reflection of you. So, anyway, that's how that works. I smoke cigarettes, I drink coffee, and I'm very frugal with everything. And a penny saved is a penny earned. So I'm resourceful, logical, rational, realistic, modest, and frugal. But there's that, and then of course specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time sensitive is my process for achieving goals. And you have to raise your energy, and you have to focus your thought, and then basically you get to that point, but then you got to consider what are you willing to give up to get something, and you get what you give. And I mean, what you get is usually tenfold, 10 times better. So most generally, when I get something, it's at least 10 cents on the dollar, sometimes a penny on the dollar. So anyway, yeah, just live a simple life and enjoy everything. And that's how you have happiness. You don't have a lot of responsibilities. You don't have a lot of things that are weighing you down. And then that's how you have peace and happiness. So anyway, over and out.